Hello and welcome to this DCS AH-64D reference aid video. The full refresher course for this aircraft will be released only after all of its systems have been implemented. However, I wanted to make this video in the meantime to cover some of the currently implemented systems and procedures, to help myself get back up to speed quickly if I step away while waiting for some of those systems to come online. I decided to make it public in the off chance that others may find it useful as well. Do take note that this video is being made in March of 2022, so depending on when you're watching it, some of the information covered may be obsolete. Also, as with all my videos, this will not be an in-depth tutorial, but rather a fairly fast-paced review of the systems covered. Feel free to skip around using the timestamps in the description if you're here for one topic in particular. I'll begin with my current startup procedure when flying with George in the CPG seat. This will of course change with future updates, but I wanted to include it as a reminder of my own current workflow for startup. Start by closing the canopy, coming across, turning on the battery, APU, setting external and internal lights as needed, making sure to turn on the primary brightness for bore sighting later, uncage the SAI, turn on all of the squelch toggles and the master volume up, as well as the RLWR a little bit. Turn on the left engine. While we're waiting for 22 up here, go ahead and enable the auxiliary fuel tank since we've got one installed. Set a low altitude warning. Now that we're 22 here, we can go ahead and push the left power level to idle. Clear the caution. Go to the TSD and start the Doppler. Set what coordinates we want to be shown in the nav and attack phases. Now that we're above 66 here, we can go ahead and start the right engine. Moving back up, we can choose what type of map we want displayed. I prefer the SAT. Do the ASE page. Now that we're 22, we go ahead and push the right power level to idle. Arm the chaffs. Come up to the CMOS panel and turn everything on. Go to the weapons page, set the LRFD to last, and then bore sight. Note that when we hit the IHADS button, the cursor automatically pops up over the bore sight now. So when we line everything up, all we have to use is our HOCAS cursor enter button, and everything's good to go. Going back out, all we're really waiting on at the moment is for the oil pressure to drop below 70. That shouldn't take too long. Alright, now that we're below 70 psi, we go ahead and push the power level to the fly position. Turn off the APU. Head over to the warning caution advisory page and reset everything there. I like to have my left MPD set up to the TADS, fully zoomed in. That way I can double check George's targeting when we're downrange. Now we're really waiting on is for the nav to finish aligning. Once that's done, you can check it via the utility page here. Once it's done, the sat nav will go ahead and pop up. While we're waiting for that, I'll discuss the radios. There's two ways to control which radio you're going to be broadcasting on. One is the RTS rocker here, as well as you have the RTS depress button on the HOCAS, which that's what I'm using right now to switch radios. You can see right here, this triangle indicates which radio is currently selected to broadcast on. There's one thing to note when you're setting up preset stations, which you can do over here, or if you're going to be swapping between stations, you need to use this RTS rocker here to select the station. At least right now, I'm not sure if that's going to change in the future. It could just be a bug. For instance, let's say I choose the FM1 station with the RTS rocker, and then I hit the preset, it's on the FM1. If I hit the RTS rocker, it will not move off of FM1, but I can use the RTS depress on the HOCAS, and you can see that it's changing stations. But even though I have FM2 selected right now, if I was to choose a station, even though it's saying FM2, it would actually input that station on the FM1. So if I go ahead and press up, you'll notice it jumps to, alright, let me close out of this. If I press up, it jumps to the UHF because it thought it was on FM1. So I'm on FM1, go ahead and hit preset. I can choose which preset I want with the WCA. For instance, JTAG 30.030. Right now it's just at 30.0. If I hit the enter button here, it updates that station. I can swap between them by hitting the swap. So now it's the 30.0, 30.03, swapped again. Note that if I use my HOCAS RTSD press to move to the VHF. So right now I currently have this radio selected. If I hit the swap button, it's still going to swap the FM1 radio because that's where the RTS rocker is currently at, as you can see. Alright, the nav down here has come online, so I can go ahead and push my park brake in and I'm ready to take off. But before I do that, I want to show you how to do the manual radio. So go ahead and hit COM, choose manual, choose whatever radio frequency you want to put in manually. So we'll go with the UHF for now. Set it to 306.5, enter. Up here you can see 306.5. But again, note that if you wanted to swap from the 306.5 back to 305, you have to use the RTS rocker up here. If I use my HOCAS and I selected it, so it's currently selected, and I hit the swap, it's still swapping the FM1 because that's where the RTS rocker up here is selected. So use it to select UHF, and now it's swapping. Alright, that's pretty much the full startup with George up front. I do it pretty much the same way with the human up there, unless they're going to handle some of the system settings through the MPDs. Just make sure that you communicate, that way you're not turning off the Doppler right as they're turning it on or something like that. Alright, I'm going to hop into the front seat and go over the startup procedure up there, and then I'll jump back in the back here to go over points and other stuff. Alright, when you're up at the front of the bus, there's not a whole lot that you have to do for startup, but one thing you want to do is make sure that your primary brightness on your internal lights is up. That way you can do your bore sight. You want to set up your radio and your TSD just like we covered in the pilot seat. You want to turn on the TDEC. Around the outside is your contrast, brightness, and all that controls. Mainly though, you want to come to the weapons page. You'll need to bore sight, and then make sure that the LRFD is set to last. Come to the utility page, ensure that your laser is on, because sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Also, when you're trying to engage targets, if your missiles aren't tracking your laser and you can't figure out why, check with your pilot and make sure that he's seeing the asterisks on his TADs back there, because sometimes it gets desynced between the pilot and CPG seat. If that happens, just go ahead and cycle it off and back on again. Coming out of here, speaking of desync issues, as the CPG, make sure that your weapon stores match what's actually loaded on the aircraft before you take off, because we've had that before. We get downrange, somebody's trying to WAS the Hellfires, and then they realize that they're not showing any on their stores while we have them on the wing. The only way to fix that is to reload them on the ground, so just keep that in mind. While we're here, I'll go ahead and activate ground safe, arm, select the missiles, go ahead and WAS the missiles so we can set up the codes. If you're operating in a multiplayer environment, you'll definitely want to change out your codes. To do that, you can just go to code, choose a different one. We'll do Echo right now. That's the code we're going to be squirting out on our laser rangefinder designator. We can hit this push button here to switch to our laser spot track. You can go ahead and make that Delta for now. This isn't currently active, but it should be hopefully not too far off in the future. Now that our laser rangefinder is going to be squirting out Echo, and we're going to be tracking for Delta on our laser spot track. But our missiles are still alpha. To change that, just go to channel. We can go back over here, go to Echo, come out, and we can see now that the missiles are going to be tracking Echo. You can also change what the secondary is and all that stuff through the channels right up here. Alright, that's pretty much everything that I want to cover on that. So other than that, when you're up front of the CPG seat, right now you could be looking at the F10 map, finding targets, creating points, coordinating with your pilot to create waypoints, whatever. Just find something to do so that way you're not up here bored, just, you know, playing with your selector lever over here. Alright, now that we're in the back seat, I want to cover how to create and edit points before we get airborne. Coming down, go ahead and zoom in. SD. I want to put a couple of points here on the taxiways. Alright, coming to the F10 map, you can put coordinates in two types, either MGRS or latitude and longitude in degrees, minutes, minute decimal format. We'll start with the MGRS. Go ahead and put my cursor out here on the taxiway. And up at the top left, you'll see that the MGRS is in a 10-digit format, so 2 sets of 5 digits. We're going to input them in 2 sets of 4 digits. So we're just going to drop the last digit off of each of those sequences. So put 5640, dropping the 4, and 2737, dropping the 7. And then to switch coordinate types, just hold left alt and hit Y, and you can cycle through. There's multiple ways to crunch the different coordinates here and get them to the correct format. I'm just going to cover the one that I personally use. So moving actually I'll just show you up here. So we're going to need to drop the last digit in each one of these sequences of numbers. And if it's, for me, if it's 5 or less, I just use the preceding 2 digits. If it's 6 or more, then I will round up. So for here, I would make this 74 and drop the 7. And over here, I would just leave that 87 and drop the 2. Also on the Eastings, the first set of numbers is going to have to be 3. So you're going to have to add a preceding 0. So for this point on the taxiway, I would make that 362156 and then 0361702. Coming back out, go to point, add, and from here, if we wanted to create quick points, we could simply just choose what type of point we wanted to create, use the cursor slew on the HOCAS, and then cursor enter, and it would drop a point right where our crosshairs are. But for now, we're going to cover how to create manual points. Also, there's ident codes that you can get from the abbreviations page here. You just find which type of point that you're creating and what you want it to be designated as, and then use the 2-digit ident code. So right now, we're going to create waypoints. We'll go ahead and hit ident up here, which will allow us to use the keypad to create a custom waypoint. I'm not going to worry about an ident code right now, or free text. You can put a 3-digit free text in there. Coming here, we'll do the MGRS coordinate first. So the first set of digits is going to be the same just because it's right next to me. You may have to update these if it's far away from where your starting position is, but it's going to be 5640277. Enter. Now it's at the altitude. By default, it's going to set it to ground level at that location. I'm just going to leave it the same, so hit enter. And as you can see over here, it's created our waypoint 1. I want to create another one, so we'll go to add, leave it as waypoint, create another waypoint. Go ahead and hit enter, enter. Now to input the latitude and longitude, we're going to hit clear to clear everything out. And we need to hit the N for north, then input the northings, which will be 362156, and then E for east, 0361702. Enter. Again, we're going to leave the altitude the same, so hit enter again. Coming over, we can see we have our waypoints 1 and waypoints 2. In order to delete a waypoint, all we need to do is hit delete, and it will ask you if you want to delete whatever waypoint is currently selected. You can select the waypoint in multiple different, or rather not just a waypoint, but any point you wish to delete by using your cursor to slew over it and select it. Now we would be deleting waypoint 1, so yes. Now there's no point selected, so we can hit delete point, and it'll put in a question mark. At this point, we can come over here and hit W02, enter. Now it's asking if we want to delete waypoint 2. Go ahead and hit no. Same thing for editing. You can hit edit, move over, hook whatever point you want, and then it will allow you to edit up here. So if we hit that, it will allow us to edit the free text, the location, or the altitude. You can't update the ident code after it's been made, but that's fine. Go ahead and delete that waypoint. Alright, I wanted to hop back into the F10 map real quick to discuss how you can use control points to help eliminate fratricide, especially when using George in the CPG seat. Because if we're back here somewhere and I'm, trying to tell him to find targets out here, he's going to give me a list of tanks, armor, trucks, infantry, but he will not distinguish between friend or foe. That's your responsibility as the pilot right now because he can't do it. So you should be using the TADs to try to visually inspect the targets that he's engaging. But if you're fighting alongside Georgian troops against Russian, a lot of the kit is going to be the same. And if he's in thermals, you're not going to be able to see the paint job and be able to tell what's what. So you can use control points to help cut back on that, especially if you know where friendly forces are going to be. So for instance, I know this right here is a friendly group. I can get their coordinates from down here in the bottom left. That's going to be 361658 because that last digit is the 9, so I'm going to drop it and round up. And then 0362394. And then I've got hostile targets over here at 361499 because 6, dropping it, rounding up. 0362656. All right, I want to set myself up an engagement waypoint. I'll go ahead and use this bridge right here. So we're going to be using the coordinates up at the top. So for that, it's going to be 361895 0362119. Alright, coming back down, we'll go ahead and zoom out just a bit. Go ahead and we're on point. We'll add. We want to add a waypoint, or we're going to be setting up out. We're not going to worry about an ident or free text. For the coordinates, we'll go ahead and clear. Go north 361896 0362119. Not gonna worry about changing the altitude. Coming back across, I want to go to the abbreviations page. Set up the friendly location as armor friend with AM. Enemy armor AE. Just do that for examples. Go to add. Roll measure. Coming across for the friendly location, we're going to want to input their code of AM. Enter. I'm going to worry about pretext. Latitude will be north 361658. East 0362394. Altitude the same. Coming across, we'll create another one. Make sure it's back to control measure. Ident is going to be AE. For testing, we'll just do tank. For tank. Here. North 361499. East 0362656. Enter. Alright, so we've created our points now. Coming across, we'll go ahead and add that waypoint to our route list here. So right now there's nothing in the route, so we'll go to route management. Currently got alpha selected. Coming back out. Go to add point. Right now it's showing point question mark. We can use slew and slew around and grab a hold of a point if it's around here, and we can use pan to go find it. But since I recreated, I know it's going to be waypoint 1, so we'll click on point question mark. We'll write in W01, enter. And then we need to choose where we want it to be in our list, so we hit in. Now there's waypoint 1. If we were creating another waypoint, we would add it to the end of the list by, again, selecting it either on the screen through choosing the point and then hit end, it would add it. Alright, in order to make it our actual route, go ahead and hit direct. Then we can just click the push button over here. Boom, we've got our route going out there to it. Come back out to pan. And as we pan up, you'll see our friendly control measure point there and our enemy control measure point there. Now once we're airborne and over there, I'll show you how you can use these points to know whether or not George is targeting friend or foe. For now, go ahead and unpan, unfreeze to snap back to myself, and I'll cut back once we're downrange. Alright, I got us out here at waypoint 1 in a high hover with active pause engaged. Put us into pan mode so I can move us up and we can see both our friendly control point and our enemy control point that we put with our tank free text that I put in there. Alright, I want to go ahead, come down to point. I'm going to add a new one, target. Make this manual with the Hocast cursor. Go ahead and move it up here, make it there. So now we got a T01 target point there. I'm going to make that my acquisition source so I can get a visual reference up here. So that's going to be my target 1 point there. And if you notice down here on the TSD, George is looking over here. So I'm going to go ahead and tell him to target in this direction. I'm going to try to tell him here. So I'm going to look directly up at it.
And obviously.
Alright, so I told him to target in that direction. Now looking down here, we can see that he's just got a list of vehicles, and we can already tell that his view that we're looking at over here on the TADS is on our friendly units. So by using down here and by making our acquisition source the TADS, so now up here on the TADS, that's where his view is at. It's no longer our target 1, but that's his view. As we cycle through his targets, both on the up here and down here on the TADS, we can see where he's switching to. But also on the TSD, we can see where he's switching to. So from right here, we can tell that all the vehicle he's got in this list at the moment, all of these ones here are the friendly ones. But then when we jump to trucks, that's out there at the enemy location. But note, over here on the TSD, even though he's actually aiming down here, it's still showing this location, because at the moment it's only showing the bearing. In order for us to get a range, we actually have to tell him to target the vehicle so that he'll laze it. So when we tell him to target,
Lazed and stored.
lazed and stored. And now if we look, we can see his solid line showing that he's lazing and that the target is out here. So this is just one way that you can use the control points to help prevent shooting at friendly vehicles, because if his cross is anywhere near this blue marker when I tell him to target, he says lazed and stored, I know that he's aiming at friendly vehicles. Then from here, we can just tell him to engage as normal. Alright, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about how to employ the weapon systems, as the guns and rockets, both from the pilot and CPG seats, employment is fairly simple. I did, however, want to touch on the Hellfires as it pertains to engaging with the lock-on after launch high and low attack modes. So to begin with, we're going to have to come down, make sure that our TSD is in the attack phase, then find a target, use this truck out here, laze it, then hit our point store on the left T-deck hand grip. You'll see down here that we got a T02, made us a target point down there. So we can either select that target point through the acquisition button here by going down and choosing target 2, or you can go directly there via chords, target 2. So now that is going to be our source for firing the missile. Come over, select our missiles, go to the trajectory mode, switch it to either low or high. Make sure that we have our missiles WASD, that our master arm is on. Got George flying me at the moment, so let me make sure that he's going to line us up.
Roger, aligning.
Now that we're aligned, we can go ahead and fire. And we'll just need to be ready to laze whenever the system tells us to laze down here. So we're pretty close, we're only 5,000 meters out, so it'll probably tell us really quickly to laze. Go ahead. Over. Got time of flight 15 seconds, 14, telling me to laze, going to laze on. Flight 3, 2, jack. That's everything I wanted to cover for the moment, though I may do supplemental videos as other systems come online. If you made it this far, I hope that you found something in this video useful and that you're enjoying the Apache as much as I am. And as always, thank you for your time and attention.